What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. In today's video, we are jumping into Venom issue number 30, as Eddie Brock is making his way to the Garden of Time, the paradise that is made out of nothing more than symbiotes. Eddie has come to break the chain of events, to prevent them from becoming what they call the eventuality. This is what Meridius has been trying to do, but he has never been able to break the cycle. Of course, Meridius is doing this for his own purposes, while Eddie Brock, he is trying to break the cycle to save his son. But while Eddie Brock has been dealing with all of this, out there in the cosmos, Carnage, he has been gathering power. He has made himself a god-level being. He thinks he's ready to go against the King in Black. And what's a Venom comic without a little bit of carnage? So, make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel, make sure that you like this video, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so we are picking up in the Garden of Time, and right now, it's all-out chaos. We have multiple different versions of Eddie Brock, each of them a King in Black, each of them a different variation. Different versions, different timelines, branching off from the original. For instance, we see a version of Bedlam ripping off one of the Eddie Brock heads. And the one ripping off the head is the Eddie Brock that has traveled through time, the one trying to break the cycle. Because this Eddie Brock, he travels not only with himself, his flesh and bone being the symbiote, but he wears Bedlam. And obviously, the Bedlam that is already here, he's not taking it kindly that there is another Bedlam, as the two Bedlams, they go arguing back and forth, each of them trying to be louder, proclaiming that they are Bedlam. While this is happening, both Wild and Tyro, they're observing that Eddie Brock has a symbiote of flesh and blood. This is something that none of them have ever seen. Tyro going on to say that he has lived through this moment 4 times, as Eddie Brock, as Finnegan, as Bedlam, and as Wild. The cycle has finally been broken. Tyro's not happy about this. He wants to become Meridius. After everything he has gone through, everything that he has endured, he believes that this is owed to him, that it can't all be for nothing. And so he goes in to attack our Eddie Brock. As he stabs and he tries to slash at Eddie Brock, this is when Finnegan comes to interfere. He tries to wrap him up the best he can, as Tyro goes on to proclaim that Dylan's not dead, that he is stronger than ever, that he's got his own hive, he's got his own army. And when he is ready, he will be Meridius's tool to escape. This is where our Eddie Brock lets him know that that was never Dylan's destiny, that he never should have had symbiote armor, never had his own hive, never been put in the position that he is currently in. And we see Eddie Brock cut off the head of Tyro. With that situation handled, we have another situation with the Bedlam's heads absorbed into one another. They have decided to fight mind versus mind. A Bedlam mind versus a Bedlam mind. Inside, it's just a bunch of half-naked Eddie Brocks beating the heck out of each other. This is when the ground begins to shake. The entire garden begins to flex. The symbiote goo begins to form. And we have Meridius arriving on site, letting Eddie Brock know that he is not happy. And it's because he is envious. It shows that the cycle can be broken. He can free himself from the eventuality. But one thing Meridius is mad about is that Eddie Brock still hasn't figured it out. This entire garden, it is not dead symbiote. This entire garden is Meridius. And so now Eddie is fighting for his life. Symbiote heads popping up in all directions. While all of this is happening, Meridius begins to get a nosebleed. Meridius's chest begins to ache. A 30-foot mega symbiote. It falls down to the ground. And what comes bursting out of Meridius's chest is none other than God Carnage. With Carnage laughing, he says that he saw a giant hand, burning candles for fingers, a great burning engine, thinking to himself that that's a god. And so he dove into the black water. But instead of being at the eventuality, diving into that water, he ended up here. That's how he was able to burst out of the chest of Meridius. He has found himself in Eddie's little heaven. And they're finally piecing it together that all of this was set up by Carnage. Carnage is what got into Ringo, got everyone killed on that space freighter. This is a reference all the way back to Venom issue number 1. Carnage going on to say that he has met big Eddies, he has met small Eddies. But if you wonder why I linked up with this one, these are all questions that he has to ask himself now that he is a god. That if their futures link, have they known each other? Is there a past connection? Reminding Eddie Brock that he is in fact now a god. When one of the Eddies jumps in on him, we see Carnage impale him. And in doing so, this Eddie Brock dies. There is no return, there is no comeback. This is absolute death. Carnage taunting them, saying that after killing the Venomverse, he really doesn't feel like there's much anymore. And when he slaughtered the little brat, after he broke his heart, thinking that maybe he's done all of this wrong, Eddie Brock asking him to repeat what he just said. Carnage says that he murdered his boy, that Dylan is dead, and Eddie Brock is next. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Definitely a fun issue. Was not expecting Carnage to arrive in this manner, but it's definitely an interesting turn of events. What they're essentially saying is that Carnage was behind a lot of this. That him traveling through the Venomverse, through the multiverse, through everything that he has been doing, he eventually found the eventuality. This led him to Meridius. Meridius eventually leading him to the land of the King in Blacks. Now, Carnage wasn't focused on the King in Blacks, he was focused on the giant Venom hand that we have been seeing. And in a reference to how powerful Carnage has become, a King in Black is supposed to be the opposite of the Beyonders, a singular individual, so they are supposed to wield a stupid amount of power. And we are seeing that God Carnage can kill a King in Black. I am very confused on how this really goes into his Carnage line, because the Carnage line kind of deviated away from everything that is going on with his godlike powers, that he's building a church on Earth. But I was reading that we are going to have a Venom Carnage crossover, that the Carnage comics are going to make sense of this, all of this is going to intertwine, interconnect, and it's all going to make sense once we get to that point. All of that starts with Venom issue number 31. That is where their battle truly begins. This is not the way I thought that they would get to this fight. It actually felt way more rushed in this case. Now, I've been saying for a while, like, I would like them to get to it. Carnage just came out of nowhere. There was no build up for it. The Carnage line wasn't hinting at this in the slightest bit. It just came out of left field. Though a bit refreshing. I was excited to get away from, I am excited to get away from, the Garden of Time and all these different timelines and the cycle, all this craziness going on. I'm sure we'll elaborate on that later on, but for the time being, it's nice to move away from that aspect and finally get to the main event, what we have all truly been waiting for. And that is God Carnage versus the King in Black. The symbiote war is supposedly still on the horizon. We don't know if that is in fact what is going to be happening here, or if that war is going to take place later on down the line. The fate of Dylan, as we know it, he's still alive. Carnage is saying that he killed Dylan here, but who knows if that's true. Maybe he's talking about the Dylan from the Venomverse. And if you didn't check out Death of the Venomverse, I highly recommend that you do so. One last thing before I go, that Anti-Venom is going to be playing some kind of unique part in this. Now, it appeared that Carnage found immunity to the Anti-Venom, but apparently 616 Anti-Venom might work a little differently. We're gonna have to see how it plays out. Either way, I'm here for it. I'm excited. We're finally reaching the climax. And hopefully, after this, we'll see Eddie Brock become the person he is truly meant to be, to fully take on what it means to be a King in Black. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything going on with Venom or Carnage, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's gonna get you completely caught up on everything going on with this series. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, but you are getting tons of perks in the process. If you are unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we have coming out. And with that being said, until the next breakdown.